Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs, cats, Yusef Wateef back in the game. This was an interesting request from my buddy Nate. He asked me about what it was like in China, especially before all the nonsense that's going on right now. And I said, you know what? Let's talk about it. And he had some questions because I wrote about it on my website a while back. And what I wanted to do was be able to maybe even make a time capsule, because I don't want to be in a situation where I forget what the world was like before all this. So let's do this. Nathan, tell them who you are and what you do and a little bit of your backstory and history while I post something on here for everybody to look at.
Yep, Nathan Theodore Francis. I'm retired Navy officer, logistics. Right now, I work as a defense contractor, and for fun, I like to travel all over. I've been to South America, the Caribbean, and I travel to Asia, the Philippines in specific, where I own properties. And I've been reaching out, getting to know interesting folks like Mr. Wateef here. So today I was just curious about his experiences in China, given the current pandemic, as well as, again, I mentioned I have properties in the Philippines. And although I've been to Hong Kong, I wanted someone's perspective on the differences between the different countries in Asia. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Asia is such a giant, diverse place. I've lived from Japan to China to Malaysia, Singapore, just Thailand. Yeah, a bunch of different places. And for the people who look familiar, the reason this guy looks familiar, I don't know how many of you, and matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. If any of you watched the Patreon video, Nathan gave us how to do Forex.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I do Forex on the side as well.
And that's something he and I decided I'm going to do coaching with him on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And he's going to give me that Skillshare experience on how to deal with Forex. And that's something I'm really, if you look in the comments there, I just posted a link to it. And we are in for a treat.
Awesome.
We are in for a treat tonight.
Hello.
Let me show you guys. This is the one that I just posted a link to. How to start Forex that I did. And I hope everybody gets a chance to do that. When you know what, I'm going to do something special tonight. I don't ordinarily do this, Laura, but because you came in and you want to give us some of these sweet experiences from China, I'm going to give you a close-up to introduce yourself. Look at that.
Hi. I'm Laura. If you have a question, I'm Laura. You can ask me. I'm Laura. Hooray!
Yeah, she's like that all the fucking time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's after 3 years of working at Disney. And if you've worked at Disney, then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, here's the thing. I think, okay, before I let Laura let loose with some of the things that she's seen and done, and I want to hear Nathan's question, I want to tell everybody one of the key experiences that I had with Laura.
All wonderful and rainbows and sunshine and lollipops.
There is the expat community in China is very tight, because China is a place where you're either Chinese or you're not. They're friendly people, they're nice people, but you're only going to get so far, right? Okay. In the group. Now, I met her online and she said, hey, I'm going to introduce you to folks when you get here. I get to town, I get to my apartment, I call her up, I'm like, hey, she said, hey, I'm going to take you to this, what was the name of that dive bar where?
It's on the tip of my tongue. I can taste the lasagna.
They had 2 locations.
Yes, they actually have more now, like all throughout China. Oh, it was the best little dive bar, and it's going to come to me when I'm not thinking about it.
Well, we go to this dive bar, but getting there was the part of the adventure that I'll always remember. She pulls up to my place on this little scooter. To be clear, I'm fairly certain I could have picked that scooter up and broke it over my leg like Batman did Bane. That's about how much it weighed.
Yeah,
She
you
was
could have.
sleeping on it, and she said, "Get on." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay." We get on, and she was driving this thing like she was driving a tank. Like she had the confidence on this thing, like it weighed 75 tons with a cannon on top, and people need to get out of her way. I'm not a fearful man, but I fudged my pants that night.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, whee! And you could hear the engine smoking with my big ass on the back, and this thing, and she's just gritting and going around, and I'm terrified at this thing. She got us there, but man, I was like, and that wasn't the only time I thought I was gonna die with Laura. So there's more to that. Yeah.
Well, at least this motorbike wasn't, held up with duct tape and prayer. This one was all functional. Everything was on it.
Wow. Yeah, there's always that. But Nick, you want to talk a little bit about some of the differences in Asia. Tell me about what you've seen and what really came to mind that you wanted to know more about.
Let's see. Well, I was always watching movies. I've traveled. I've been through Japan. Tokyo. When you fly into the Philippines, it seemed really clean, exotic. And I always thought the same thing about China in a way. I just never either. That's what I thought about China, or I didn't think about China. But now I'm starting to gather that at least the opinions I'm hearing are that if you're not in Hong Kong, it's maybe not the cleanest place, or that food is very sparse there. So I was curious about that. I know I've heard some things as I've gotten older that just don't make any sense. But I didn't realize it's a huge place with lots of people. But some of the things that I began to hear were, and I'll just give you maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and you can confirm or deny that most of the people are poor. That most Chinese people believe that the Chinese are the center of the universe and they really don't like anybody else. Exactly.
That's across the water, but keep on. I love this.
Let's see that that a lot of Chinese are perhaps not oppressed, but just not really up to speed on what's going. Like, talk about mainland China, the People's Republic, not really aware of what's going on in the greater world. Because I'm always hearing, the news from the defense perspective that the Chinese government is trying to hack into the U.S. government. They have like a huge cadre of hackers. I know there's so much propaganda. And then I guess the last would be that I guess that maybe the tenor of the people is a little different, meaning because I guess the baseline Chinese person is more of an amoral pragmatist, so they don't have as many limitations about many morals and limitations as we do as Americans.
Wow, you went into the deep end. You went into the deep end. Laura, I'll let you take lead on this one. How long were you in China total?
5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me preface with saying this. You should always take what everybody says about something else with a grain of salt and a whole load of shit, because you don't know where their biases are, where they're coming from. And if they haven't experienced it themselves, they could just be talking about what they're learned by somebody. So a lot of what you're saying is quite interesting, because I would equate that with other countries, especially about
Japan. Sorry to interrupt you.
Japan and Korea. A lot of that sounds like North Korea. Now, true, there are some things that, because their news information is run by the government, that they are a little glossy on. But it depends on where you are. We were in Shanghai. That's a metropolitan city. And if people want the news, there are ways to get around that big Chinese firewall, which most Chinese people knew about. Okay. Now, as you get into the provinces, we got to really
focus on, though, that we have to get a lot of people to understand is no matter what you find is or is not true about China, Chinese people have very little access to information on the outside world. Everything that they learn is ruthlessly controlled by their government. So when
Okay.
you meet someone, for example, Laura, let's tell them like it is. We've met people for whom meeting us, we weren't the first quote unquote Black people they'd ever seen. We were the first people who were not Chinese they'd ever seen in their life.
Yes, because
Wow.
China is so homogenous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. And how were their reactions to you? Was it
We caused an
mostly
accident.
curiosity?
People almost died.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Okay.
I remember people walking up to me when I would be, let's say, downtown in the tourist district, who couldn't speak a word of English, who would put their baby in my arms, hug me, and take a picture, and give me a thumbs up.
Obama. And I got Beyonce because, I mean, we look exactly the same.
Exactly. You know, so you're in a situation where you have these people who've never had any outside contact dealing with learning that the world might be more than what their government told them, which in and of itself is a dangerous thought to even have publicly.
Got it.
So when they meet you, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to have a discussion with you because they've never seen anyone who's not Chinese. Remember, they're 1/3 of the world's population.
Got it. So and so because of that, then the expat experience there is that, I mean, you guys would naturally be very close because they don't see a lot of foreigners, and so I guess there's not a lot of intermingling. Is that safe to say?
It's awkward.
That's a very good answer for it. It depends on who you're talking to, because if you're talking to someone from work, then they deal with us Americans, foreigners, expats all the time. But if you're talking about someone down the street, I can't tell you how many times I was trying to speak Chinese to somebody and someone would run up, no, I can help. And I'm just like, but I'm trying to. Okay, baby, come on, practice your English. I can help you. And it's just like they see us as a tool, or God forbid, entertainment, which most people do. We're not going to get on that high horse now today.
The other thing is, when we talk about the Chinese people being pragmatic, I don't necessarily see that as an insult. You know, the Chinese people are very much what do we need to do to win?
Nothing wrong with that.
Get that money.
I'm not going to say they're out to get people, but I can safely say to you, as far as the ability to hustle, the ability to make a deal, the Chinese people, you would be, if you want to out hustle them, especially with anything involving a cash for services, you got to get up very early in the morning.
Really?
And it's not who they're trying to get. It's when you see them go at it with each other. I mean, Laura, do you remember how to count with your hands? Do you remember how to count with your hands in Chinese?
Yeah.
Go 1 through 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 10.
Depending on what city you're in. Because there's Chinese, Mandarin, and then there's Shanghaiese. But now, here's what'll blow your mind. When you see two people haggling over a price, you could be in the electronics market and they're arguing over a high-end TV. You could see some guy arguing over an old lady over the price of melons at the end of the night. And he's like, look, you old hag, you're not going to sell anyway. Why don't you just give it to him for half price? And she's like, fuck you, I can still sell this. I'll stay here until I sell it. And they'll be arguing and throwing numbers at each other with their hands while they're arguing with language. And they're speaking in two different mediums at the same time.
Wow.
They'll be arguing with each other and throwing numbers back and forth with their hands. And I'm like,
okay.
That is some impressive shit. You know, Graham said, hold on, Graham Vincent said, I'm curious, why would you swap Shanghai for Sao Paulo? I didn't, Graham. I've lived in 15 countries throughout my life. I intend on living in more. Sao Paulo, Brazil is an amazing city and an amazing country where I'm a permanent resident. But for me, it's another step on that path. So I didn't swap anything. I just knew that there was a time for Shanghai, China. Now there's a time for Sao Paulo, Brazil. there may be a time for another country next. So swap is kind of a misnomer. And Graham, do us a favor. Make sure you and everybody watching on Facebook, click the YouTube link below. You need to subscribe on the YouTube side. That's really important. But great question. Great question, Graham. And shout out to T. Noah Thomas. We had a New Year's Eve party at a hotel at the Westin. Best Chinese New Year's ever.
Wow. Okay.
No pictures.
And what happens in the Westin stays in the Westin, I guess.
Yeah.
No evidence, no witnesses.
Well, if you had to give a quick answer or short answer to a preference, do you prefer China or Japan?
Ooh, okay. Point blank, Chinese. I have to say the Chinese.
Wow.
They're real. And I say this with all the love of my heart. The Japanese have this rigidity where they are nice to you and you can pick it up. They're nice to you, but they're just like, I don't want to be nice to you, but society dictates that I'm nice to you, so I'm going to be nice to you.
I've heard that.
Chinese, they'll yell at you and still love you in the same sentence. It's just like, I don't know what's going on, but I think everything's okay. It's more, they let out their emotions. You know where you are with a Chinese person, I should say it like that.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
there
I like
are
that.
some social norms and stuff like that, Guangxi and face and all that stuff, but I feel as if they are easier to read.
Do you remember, Laura, the night you almost, you know what? I was about to tell a lie. I was about to say you almost got us beat up by some Chinese bouncers, but the truth is you almost got yourself beat up because I had made the decision to run. I had already decided if shit goes down, I'm falling ass because I wasn't trying to get involved. We were down.
No one ever wants to harm me. I'm perfect and wonderful and lovely.
Okay. She was at this place where it was some kind of a restaurant club, and she was like, "Oh, let's go grab something to eat." And I was like, "I'm always in the mood to eat." We go downtown, and there's some club with a fancy thing out front. So she walks in, and there's a really nice, stern gentleman, like every bouncer everywhere in the world. He's got his black suit on with his earpiece. And he said, no foreigners. I said, deal. Hey, this is your house, man. I'm not going to argue with you to give you my money. If my money isn't what you want, okay. She stood there trying to explain to him why she should be allowed in. And the guy is trying to be nice because we're foreigners. And he and his friends are stereotypical. Listen, I used to be a bouncer. My mother still doesn't know that's part of how I paid for college. I used to be a bouncer, and I understand that your job dictates you're nice until it's not. But when the decision is made not to be nice, there's no in-between period. That's what separates the dangerous people from the not dangerous. When it's go time, when they've deemed you're too loud and you're too much of a threat, I'm going to have to bust your head in and throw you to the side. I decided that if it did go down, first of all, they might spare her because she's a girl, maybe. But I'm a big black dude. They want to test it. Everybody, they want to test that right hand on me. I'm not that guy.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to the BK for making it a point to tell people what I do for a living because I'm on YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber, so to speak. I do editing, copy editing, proofreading, ghostwriting. My biggest thing right now is people have been hiring me to write resumes left and right. This thing has got people looking for quality, well-written resumes because a lot of people don't know where they're going right now. You know, and what I'll do is I'll show you guys. For anybody who wants to catch me here, I tell people, add me on LinkedIn. My name is Yusef Wateef. It's the same thing everywhere. But don't look at my resume first. The one thing I always tell everybody, and some of you have heard this before, I tell them, don't look at my resume first. The first thing I want you to do is, as soon as my internet catches up, is I want you to scroll down. And you're going to get to a part called recommendations. Those are references. Those are other business professionals from all over the world who will say, hey, that guy Wateef is who he claims to be. Yes, you should hire him. That's the only thing that's taken me around the world and back is my ability to live off my name and my reputation professionally. And I don't know why everything just stopped. Normally, there we go. You know, and that's one of the things that I tell people when you catch me on LinkedIn, go all the way down. look past my resume. My resume is fun. My education, my degrees, those look fun too. But here's the section you want to go to and go in detail and say, you know, this guy, is he really who he claims to be professionally? Let's see. Where is it? Come on. How come I can't find where? Now this thing is behaving poorly. Experiences, interests.
It's going forward.
I don't know. I'll have to show it to you guys later.
It'll be a little treasure hunt for later, little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Find it and put it in the comments.
Well, then I guess I'll ask the same question again: is China or Korea? South Korea, to be more.
I've never been to Korea.
I've never been to Korea.
Okay, all right. I'm really surprised. I mean, I have a good buddy. You know, we talk almost all the time. He's fascinated with Japan. He's a guy. So, and I guess it's easy to sort of get wrapped up in, you know, the mystique of Japan or what we think is. So it's interesting to hear two of you guys say that you would prefer China over Japan.
Oh, don't get it twisted. I love Japan. Those people are weird as fuck. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's fantabulous. I'm just like, I understand y'all. But as of just niceness and stuff like that, yeah, China. I did get to go to a cat cafe in Japan, and that was awesome. Lots of kitties.
Okay. And let me think. Okay, well then, would you say
China or the Philippines?
Okay, yeah, I should have asked that. China or the Philippines?
Definitely China.
Wow, definitely. Yeah. Okay, and you say that because?
So I went to Manila and I went to Cebu. No, the one across the way. I keep on forgetting. Boracay.
Oh,
I went there. Okay. Yes, that was fantastic. And if you ever go, there's like this station number 2 that has the best barbecue. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. But Philippines, that was the first time I stayed at a hotel where I definitely knew prostitutes were around.
Oh yeah.
It was like if I went to a tier 3 city in China in the amount of, I don't want to say.
Just spit it out there.
Yeah. I was scared in the Philippines.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Whereas in China, I walked around like queen of the world and knew that no one was going to bother me. Really?
So there's no fear of petty theft, crime, anything like that in China?
Oh no. I'm more scared to walk around in America than in China, anywhere, even in Xinjiang.
In Japan, you know, here's what will get you. Most Americans really don't understand how dangerous the United States is. They really don't understand that random violence is just not something that's normal in other places. When we talk about danger, for example, the example I always give is I did an article called Violence and Danger Where You Are. People ask, isn't Brazil dangerous? And I say, well, yeah, it is. And they say, well, why did you move there? I said, because in order to get in trouble in Brazil and be in a dangerous area, I would have to be someplace I shouldn't be, with people I shouldn't be with, doing things I shouldn't be doing. If I'm walking down the street, the worst that's going to happen is maybe if I'm walking down the street holding my phone like a tourist, some enterprising young man decides I'm going to snatch his phone. But as far as just being shot by random violence, randomly by the police or criminals, that just doesn't happen. The only place in the world that I know of where you can consistently worry about a child being murdered at school or you going to a supermarket and being shot in the back of the head, that's America. Other places, you can be in your own religious place and just get murdered
for no reason. In your own car.
In other places, you've got to really have to be doing some shit to get in violent danger. So when you go to a place like China, Japan, Brazil,
super safe.
When people give stories, my favorite is when people give stories about bad things that happen. My first question is, oh, by the way, look, live, Brazil Violence and Danger Where You Are. I'll leave the link because I want everybody to check that out.
I'll check that. Yeah, I'll check that out, bro.
I always tell people, you know, when people give you a story and they say, I was in Brazil or I was in China or I was in Japan and this terrible thing happened to me, ask, oh, well, where were you? Oh,
Okay.
I was in this neighborhood. Well, hold on. Let me take my phone out. If I Google that neighborhood, what are they going to tell me? Oh, this neighborhood is where people go for, it looks like prostitutes and cocaine. Oh, okay.
Caught.
Okay. Well, one thing I'll say that I think may be in defense of the Philippines. I don't know why I feel like I need to defend the Philippines, but maybe because I own property. But Manila is not the Philippines. Well, Manila is the Philippines, but you never hear about the crime in the out in the province, so to speak. So we know Manila is a known entity for extreme poverty, extreme disparity in the rich and the poor, crime, dirt, grime, nastiness, prostitutes. So
Okay.
you know, if you go to Manila, you can get into some griminess if you want to.
You actually make me feel so much better because I just wanted to say the level of poverty that I saw in Manila was shocking. I hadn't seen that level of poverty
really
from the time I was in India. That was the worst. The Philippines was a step above. I mean, corrugated roofs, dirt. I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot. I need to get out of here. And don't get me started about that stupid ass airport. But
the airport's much better now, at least the Delta terminal. But anyway, I can relate to what you're saying because when I went there in 2002, a good buddy took me, and I was sort of traumatized at the poverty that I saw. And then again, I went there in December of 2017. And I went to Rojas, which is where Boracay is, but I went to on the island of Capiz. I wasn't in Boracay. I was in the province, not the hood, but the province. Long story. I ended up going to meet the family of a woman I was dating. I didn't realize that it meant what it meant. That they were kind of handing her over to me. I really didn't realize that, right?
So wait, is this one of the places where taxi drivers don't go?
No, this wasn't like that at all. This was just a very spread out. It was just a province. It was poor, but it wasn't. I wasn't scared for my life. In fact, I felt like a rock star. Everybody was checking me out, but I was traumatized again though because I'd been talking to her family on the internet and things for a long time. Well, over a number of years. And so when I finally had a chance to go into their homes in Rojas, it was, you don't realize that, okay, you're seeing a room, but this room is actually in a house that half of it was demolished in the last tsunami. So I ended up
that level of poverty.
You understand that things on the internet aren't always true, right?
I know, right?
Talking to somebody on the internet, you got to be careful. You could be talking to Thulu.
That's true. So I ended up leaving that experience feeling the same way, that once I met them, I instantly felt, I shouldn't say bad, but I did, because when I saw the conditions under which they, not bad is not the word, but when I saw the conditions under which they lived, it's kind of like you feel like you want to like change their world or something.
Yes. Oh,
you know what I mean? And
I felt that way in India.
Yeah, but I felt it took me about a month to get over what I saw. Just because, I mean, this is their life. This is how, they've been living that way, chilling, having a great time. But when you realize, okay, like the dirt floor of the house and, the stink the stove might be like a little gas can, with the burner and, and just whoa. But then at the same time, I'm in the living room with the only room with a fan, and a little boy comes up to me. He had to be no more than 2.5, maybe 3. He took my phone and he unlocked it and he started using it and surfing the internet. I'm thinking, what the hell? So
let me give a quick shout out to all the people watching who inevitably are going to ask me about these things in Brazil. They're going to ask me about the level of poverty. They're going to ask me about a lot of the things they see poor people in Brazil going through. I want to tell you ahead of time, I don't know. I wasn't raised in poverty in America. I don't go to those places. If anybody comes out to hang out with Wateef from Brazil, you're going to be downtown, eating in nice restaurants, having fun in places where we can take selfies on the street. I don't know about that life. I'm not built for the struggle in America or anyplace else. I'm not that guy.
Okay, so then it's basically just like, I guess, almost any place that you go, that if you go to the scummy places, you're going to see the scum. Like if everyone comes to the U.S. thinking like Vegas is the U.S., well, Vegas isn't the U.S. or the Vegas of old. It's not the U.S. I mean, U.S. is huge. So just like, people think the Philippines is Angeles City. I'll put an arrow on Angeles City in the Philippines. If you're not familiar, okay, then I'm sure Wateef is. The Philippines is not Angeles City. For those out there who know what Angeles City is, that's not the Philippines. So I can see that. But one thing I like to ask about what you said, Yusef, is that I've been seeing these news reports. Again, these are news reports in the U.S. that Brazil.
Oh no! Listen, I
is
googled
underreported.
Philippines. All I did was Google Angeles City, Philippines. I'm not putting that up. I'm not putting up what I came with.
Yeah, don't put that up. You can't do that. Exactly. And all I want to say is that what you see across on your screen, that's not the Philippines. That's only Angeles City. And so you go there for what you're looking for the scumminess.
And you know what? I feel bad for those regular people, that guy that's a mechanic, that woman that's a restaurant worker. I feel bad for them because when you say, oh, I work in the Philippines, they're going to look at him like, oh, what do you do? And they're going to look at her like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, no, dude, I'm a mechanic. And that woman's going to say, no, I'm a chef at a restaurant. But I've got to fight. It's like when I lived in Bangkok, Thailand.
Exactly. Yep.
Only a tiny number of people work in the red light district. But if you Google it or ask somebody, what's in Thailand? I went to Thailand because I got to train in amateur kickboxing until I vomited. It was awesome. I had a great Brazilian jiu-jitsu squad I trained with. I got to get massages from people who studied at this temple for Buddhists. And this old lady could stick her finger in my muscle until I cried. And I'd be like, no, don't stop. And she went, oh! But then some people go and they're looking for different things. And that's okay. I'm not judging them, but you got to be careful. It's like when somebody says, I'm from Chicago. I have friends from Chicago. People say, man, Chicago is violent. What's that like? And my buddy is like, I don't know. I wasn't raised there. Chicago's huge. It's huge. Depending on where you off is the experience you're going to have.
That's the same argument. Well, not argument, but discussion that I had with that same friend I told you that was preoccupied with Japan. He's pretty much said, hey, I shouldn't even tell people that I try to do businesses or have properties in the Philippines because and I'm single. I'm currently not married. So there's no way I'm going to escape the stigma of this guy's going over to the Philippines. It has to be for only one reason. And it's not. And a lot of guys go over there and it's not for that reason. Now, maybe that's wrapped up in the reasons, but it's not the only reason. And you just can't dodge it. People are always going to assume the worst whenever you just mention the Philippines. That's really actually kind of unfortunate. I've even had to explain to, some friends where I might be talking about a young lady I might have dated or be dating. And I actually have to say to them, look, guy, she's not a bar girl. You can't assume all the Filipinos are bar girls. So it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
I was so lost.
I'm sorry. I know.
Y'all were talking about the thing about the Philippines, and I'm thinking like, what do people say about the Philippines? I don't know what they say about the Philippines.
There's a huge stigma. Kind of like, it's just very similar to Thailand. People just assume, people think a lot about the sex rate, when actually there's a very, very small, relative to the population, number of women who are involved in that. The bigger story about the Philippines is just the poverty. It's such a biodiverse country with that's rich in some resources, but the poverty outstrips that to an amazing degree. And they got a long way to go. And now the COVID, who knows what that's going to turn into. But that's what I hear though, is that there's a bigger outbreak of corona in Brazil than that's commonly understood. Do you hear anything more about that, Yusef?
Wait, say that last part again.
That there's a much larger outbreak of corona in Brazil that is like being underreported or misreported in the media.
Oh, I don't believe that any country is being legitimate and honest about their numbers from China on down. I don't believe a single government has ever at any point been legitimate and honest about their reports on what they're doing. I just don't.
I think that's a pretty rational statement, actually, because a lot of times there is a vested interest in not being completely open and honest.
Right. BK from the Rocky said people really do think that other people will look for trouble in places that they live, and that ain't reality. You know, but that's my whole thing. Is like in China, I could walk from downtown to my house at night. I might be in danger of getting hit by a scooter. That's real. Yeah.
Not my scooter. Not my scooter.
That's legit because traffic lights are a suggestion at best in downtown. Let me tell you something. If you've ever been in the worst traffic in Los Angeles, California, you still only got a taste of what China's traffic is like. It is ruthless out there. Ruthless. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say, you always hear about expats, like I always do for the circles that I circle in. And I always hear them say they want to actually retire in a foreign country. So you hear Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Colombia, the Philippines. Obviously, I'm going to be aware of a lot of expats who want to retire in the Philippines. I never really hear of the ones who say they want to, hang it up in China. They want to be in China until they buy the farm. Is that something that people do or no?
I would imagine that'd be extremely hard considering that the Chinese government doesn't give a lot of foreigners permanent residences. Like you have to be something of a superstar.
I don't know.
They started relaxing it a few years ago, but no.
You could go there, get married, live there for 10 years, have 5 children, and they still can look at you and just say, no, we don't want you as a citizen. And that's just it. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't have to accept their children as citizens either, do they? Laura, do you have any insight on that?
I didn't hear what you said. They don't have what?
They don't have to accept their children as citizens. Now, listen, Brother Christopher, Chinese aficionado, do you want a join link? Do you want to come up to the big house with us? Christopher has an in-depth knowledge of China in a different city, whereas we're talking about Shanghai. Christopher, are you coming up to say hello? Send me a private message, and I'm going to send you an email link.
That would be great. Which city? Which city, if I may ask?
I am not sure.
Okay, because I'm aware of the major cities, the popular cities. So you have Shanghai, right? I was going to say Hong Kong, but I'm still kind of fuzzy on the relationship between Hong Kong and the mainland. Like, do the Hong Kongers, they don't like each other on the mainland or no? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just commenting on what you said about Hong Kong and China. Their relationship is fuzzy. They don't even know where their relationship is right now, especially right now.
Okay, because I used to read articles, and the sense of it I got was that Big Brother China was putting its arms around Hong Kong, and they were going to try to leverage Hong Kong's open market, capital markets, to bring fiscal strength to what had been, I guess, a closed market in China in some senses, political, economic structure. But Hong Kongers just were like, no, we're not trying to hear that. So I never followed up on it.
Hong Kong doesn't want to be part of China because that Chinese citizens didn't have. So when China said, "Nuh-uh, you're going to follow what they're doing," Hong Kong's like, no. And that's where all these protests came out of. I mean, we've seen the protests, the yellow umbrella, the umbrella protests, and all the other ones where Hong Kongers are like, no, we're not going to take this from a government that just acquired us. It's just like getting a step parent. You ain't my daddy.
Got it.
Or I haven't seen you daddy in a long time. You can't tell me what to do. It's gonna be difficult. Like a lot of people in Hong Kong consider themselves from Hong Kong, not from China.
I understand. I see there's a similar relationship between Sicily and Italy. I lived in Sicily for 3 years while I was with the DOD. So it wasn't, while I lived on the economy, as they call it, I still was under the SOFA agreement. So sometimes I think there's a barrier as opposed to being just an American in Sicily. But it was a very similar thing. A lot of Sicilians thought of themselves as Sicilian, not Italian type of thing. So I can kind of understand that. Cost of living, like just to have fun, go out, dinner, movie, dating, nice apartment. Is it easy to swing, or are you kind of over there kind of, counting your pennies?
Very easy. As long as you're not an asshole about your money. If you go out every night and you buy tables and you buy bottles and you get the girls with the little sparkler being like, yeah, big boy have money, then yeah, you're not going to have enough money left. But what you can vouch for me in this. I decided when I started at Wall Street English. 6 months into Wall Street English, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a train trip around China.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of a Black woman going by herself around China. So I'm going to do it. I decided that 6 months before I did it, and I was able to save up 30,000 RMB. And that was not trying hard. That was just saving 5,000 a month, which was easy peasy lemon squeezy. And originally I had decided to go around China on train for 2 months, but I had so much time and money left over that I went over for 3. And still came home with like at least 17,000 RMB when I came back to Shanghai. So you just got to be smart about it. You don't eat out at the Westin every night because you can, because the Westin is in Shanghai. You don't get a $600 kuai meal. You go downstairs to where the people are on the side of the street and you point to your rice and you get your $9 rice with 2 eggs and no spicy food. And everything is just great.
Okay.
What you're saying is true, especially if you're someone, my entire life has been fortunate. I don't have expensive habits. So for me, how much is a gym membership and some really good food?
Okay. And
go ahead.
I was going to say, saying that, no, we're just, now with current world events, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I guess I'll ask you guys' opinion. Do you think, and within maybe 2 or 3 years or so, that a regular guy like myself could say, hey, I'm going to go over to China and hang out for a couple of weeks, or is that just not foreseeable for a while?
Of course you can. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. I don't see why anybody doesn't get out of America, get out of North America and legitimately go somewhere, because plane tickets are cheap. Depending on how you go, plane tickets are cheap. They want to get these tour packages where it's going to be $3,000 for 2 weeks. Do you know how much $3,000 can last you in China if you're smart about it? If you go to a regular hotel, if you eat, sometimes you eat at Pizza Hut, which is really, really nice. Sometimes you eat on the side of the street. Sometimes you eat at 7-Eleven, which they do have 7-Eleven. And you can just go around China for $3,000.
Hey,
I mean, it's not hard, but people think it is.
Do they have Popeyes?
I don't know yet, but they had Taco Bell.
No, I got something for you. You ready? You ready, Laura?
Yes.
Are you looking at your screen? Who's your travel buddy?
Hey, how's it going? See, Laura and I went, and I'm going to pronounce your name like I do my Brazilian children. Forgive me. Laura in English, Laura in Portuguese. We went and explored Wuxi together before I moved out of China. And we went on like a full long weekend excursion. We got our feet eaten by fish. It was fantastic.
Tell me about having your feet eaten by fish.
Okay, so there's a thing I don't know if it's a thing anymore, but there was a fad for a very brief amount. Is it a thing? Is it still a thing, Laura? Okay, where it's called a fish pedicure. That's literally what it is, where they get these little fish that are basically like piranhas. And you stick your feet in the water, or in this case, it was a full-on like lake pond that you could sit in. And these big fish just hoard towards you. It was
they weren't that big. They were tiny. They're like little sardines.
Okay, compared to the guppies that they use in America, these things were terrifying. And they'll come and they'll nibble on the dead skin on your feet, which is really gross when you think about it. But for the experience, it's so terrifying. There's something in your brain that just doesn't work when you see animals coming towards you, coming to eat your feet.
They're eating you alive. That's what it is. That's what
it is. There's something in your brain that goes, no, I'm out.
I think I heard about that somewhere. It may have been via Anthony Bourdain or someone. I may have read about it in an article. Sounds pretty interesting.
Be sure to check out. Look at that, everybody. The link is in the side.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out.
I do a lot of cooking on my channel. I talk a lot about traveling. I've lived in 4 different countries. I have multiple degrees. I love doing what I do. I lived in China for 2 years. I lived in Beijing and in Shanghai for a while. So it's the reason I was invited to the conversation.
I've been watching your cooking show on Instagram.
Yes, thank you. We made
Instagram.
vegan carrot dogs today, so that'll be fun.
I made burgers.
All right, brother Christopher. Might I say that's one hell of a beard you're rocking? We can't hear you. Are you muted? Did you mute yourself?
Yeah, I think he entered muted.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, I can lip read. I don't know about everybody else.
We can't hear you. Okay, check your Bluetooth. Do you have your phone automatically connected?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, I had to turn it on with the setting. How is everyone?
Life is good.
Yeah.
Peachy King.
Amen. Hallelujah.
So listen, tell them where you are in China or where you just left.
No, I'm not in China right now. I'm in Medellin, Colombia.
Okay.
Oh, you ain't that far from over here.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
tell them
so,
about your experience in China is quite unique.
Yeah, somewhat, a little bit. I left China in October. I left China to come here October 15th. I kind of I don't know, lucked up. Left at the right time, but I was supposed to return in March. But because of the situation, I'm still here in Colombia.
So what did you do in China? Because I was surprised that you went back because you and I met through mutual friends in Brazil. You were in Brazil after China, and when you and I were sitting down eating in Brazil, you said, you know what, Watt? My heart is still in China. And you said, I'm going back. And I said, okay. And you went back. Tell me about what you built up there. What city you're in and the difference between your city and someplace like Shanghai.
Well, this is the thing. China, for us right now, when I say my heart is still in China, really, I was trying to build a foundation in life. You know, it's an economic reason.
In, please.
Huh?
What city?
Guangzhou.
Okay.
No.
Where is that near? Where is that near?
That's near Shenzhen, Hong Kong. It's in the Guangdong area.
Guangdong area. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a city where all the over the past month or 6 weeks, all of the incidents with racism and Black people and Africans being put out on the streets, and that's the city that it was happening in, mostly.
Okay.
It's a fun city.
In fact, I heard about that. I wanted to ask you guys' feelings about those stories. Like, I've seen a lot of stories about Chinese beating up on Africans and all sorts of things, and saying they want, if you're African, someone even said that even if you're just Black, they don't want you in the country. Is there any truth to any of that?
Well, first of all, one thing you have to realize is that if you're Black in China, you're African. Doesn't matter where you are. Like some places, for example, in the United States, if you're Latino, you're a Mexican, you know? In Colombia, if you're Japanese, Korean, you're Chino. So
I understand.
Being Black in China, you're African. It just doesn't matter. So if you're from Canada, United States, wherever, you know, that's
they make an assumption.
Yeah. Most people don't know. Most people don't know.
So you're
people live in the United States. I've had that conversation several times. I had that conversation several times during the Obama administration and had to remind
your American citizenship doesn't provide any sort of standing. The only reason I say that is because I've been to a few countries that I've been to. They would always try to make the distinction. They'd say, you're Black, obviously, but you're American, you're Black American. And that seemed to make a difference.
No, that's a good point, and it does most of the time.
Yeah.
But on face value, when they see you, they don't know. Nobody knows.
Okay.
I have several stories in Brazil, in Salvador, Bahia, where when I open my mouth, even though I speak Portuguese, when I just cut that off, like, what? Oh, Americano. It changes immediately.
Don't you hate that? When you're like trying to practice and you're like, I got this. And then they're like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, what do you mean where am I from? I'm from Brazil. And they're like, no, you're not. I hate that.
Okay. I was always curious about that because I know I've experienced that in the Philippines, and a few other places that they really made a sharp distinction if you were American black or if you were African. I think I experienced that in Australia as well. I was only in Australia briefly, but I got asked the question. So,
really?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't think of that as from Australians, but it's a different country. I got to remember that.
It was a long
But
time.
you got to remember, Australians, I mean, let's not forget, as much as I loved Australia, I lived in Sydney, Australia. It was a lot of fun. Let's not forget that they are single-handedly responsible for the extermination of the only group of people who could say they were on the earth as long as anyone in Africa, which is the Aborigines. And when I say exterminate, I mean down to nearly the last man, woman, and child. They murdered them off with a ruthless efficiency. So you can't look at someone and say, just because you're from this country, again, being a Black American, you also got to look at everybody's flag has a certain dollar sign attached to it. The American flag has a dollar sign attached to it that's quite large. It's not necessarily they like it, because they know Americans can bring money, tax revenue, some popularity, cool stuff. The other advantage, and this is something I tell people all the time. By the way, does anybody remember Ainsley Harriott, the chef, Ainsley Harriott?
That rings a bell.
Cool guy, Chef Ainsley Harriott. Met him in Australia.
Wow.
We got to also remember that Black Americans are the drivers of what a lot of people will consider cool. So I'm a square, but people would assume I'm cooler than I am and be disappointed when I'm like, no, dude, I'm a square.
Understood.
So that's the thing with where you were in China. What kind of city is it, Chris?
Guangzhou?
Yeah.
Guangzhou. First of all, Guangzhou has the largest community of Black people in Asia. It's a city where it's a lot of international trade going on with clothes, textiles. We're an hour bullet train away from Shenzhen, which is, a city that specializes in electronics. It's where the iPhone is made. So in that whole Guangdong area, you have certain type of businesses like the electronics business, the textile, import, export. Then you also have the financial sector right across the border in Hong Kong. So you have access to about 70 million people in population in different sectors within about an hour to an hour and a half of a bullet train. So you can, for example, you can live in Guangzhou, work in Hong Kong, and be back, be making that trip every day. And it could take, now from Guangzhou to Hong Kong, they have a 45-minute train. So 45-minute bullet train, you're there and back. So that's pretty much Guangzhou and Guangdong area.
Do you speak Cantonese?
No. Very, very little. Very little. I speak Mandarin.
Okay. I always ask my students if they speak Cantonese or Mandarin. They're like, teacher, I speak Chinese. Oh, okay.
I decided I wanted to take the time to learn the Cantonese, but I've learned my lesson in the past. I decided to try to learn Spanish and Portuguese somewhat close to each other, and it's kind of messed me up the whole time. So I decided if I'm going to learn Cantonese, which is also it's similar to Mandarin but it's very different, I might as well do that later.
Let's say
what's the most prevalent language?
I want everyone's opinion on this because I'm going to say something about when we talk about words like Cantonese, Chinese, Mandarin, Hong Kongese, right?
Opinion.
a lot of people don't realize that China isn't one monolith, that China grew by going to other countries of people who looked similar to them and then said, you're in China now. And if they said, no, we're not, they said, of course you are. Do you want to ask again? And then people got the fucking message and said, okay, we're Chinese. Like, there are Chinese people who are nearly 7 feet tall because they're actually people who come from Arab backgrounds way in the north of China who don't even look Chinese. But I met a 7 foot tall woman, and for her people, that's normal.
Wow.
And when China beat the fuck out of their ancestors and took over that land, they're like, you're Chinese. And they said, okay, we got the flag now.
That's the same thing that's going on in
Xinjiang
at the moment with the Uyghurs.
Mm-hmm.
You want to dig into that?
That's the spicy meatball.
Laura, are you in China? Is anybody in China right now?
No.
Oh, okay. We can dig into it.
I am at home in my studio.
Okay, let's start.
That's a sensitive topic.
Uyghurs are Muslim. Who live in China.
I heard about those guys.
Uyghurs are Muslims that live in China, and the Chinese government officially has absolutely no religious policy. The Uyghurs have been systematically rooted out, and I'm going to use a verb that a lot of people may not be familiar with. I had to learn what this verb means. They were disappeared.
That's a good
Now, what does that mean? That means there are people who would literally wake up to soldiers saying, walk this way, and you may never hear from or see them again. Now, because modern technology has evolved to the point where people can sneak out pictures, you found out they've literally put these people, and this is without atheists, right? They have put these people in concentration camps.
At least 1 million. Minimum.
What was that? Nathan, is that you?
There's some interesting sound effects going on. But I'm not excited because everyone else is just so quiet. Wait, I'm not saying it.
That was my MetaTrader 4 for 4. Oh, sorry about that. My computer was gonna die.
Why wouldn't
I'm back. Sorry about that.
It's buying and selling.
Why was my computer?
It's not like you didn't know.
No, I had a charger plugged in, but it wasn't the one that works properly. Now I have that one in.
Why have a charger that doesn't work properly? I feel like that would be the most frustrating thing in the world. When I plug something into charge, I need to know it's going to be there to handle the job. Why would you have a charger that doesn't work? Wait, I need to answer that question.
Wait, where is everybody at the moment? Yusef, you're in São Paulo.
São Paulo, Brazil.
And Al, where are you?
I'm in Vitória, Brazil.
Okay.
Espírito Santo.
Okay. And Laura, where are you?
I'm in that great state of Texas, Houston, H-Town.
Okay.
I forgot
it's
you're
amazing
from
we're
Texas.
not dead. Because isn't Texas one of those places where they're just throwing that coronavirus around like a baseball?
Oh, don't even get me started on all of this. Seriously, it's just it's a
so hold on.
Is.
And where's Nathan? Where's Nathan?
I don't know.
Is he in the States?
I am now.
Nathan just blacked out. He heard his thing go off, and then his phone went dark, and now he said, I've got to go back and plug in my other charger. And I'm like, we've been planning to have this conversation since yesterday. And then an hour ago, I said, hey, we're on an hour. He said, yeah, he's supposed to plug his phone. He plugged in the wrong plug in his computer on purpose. That's amazing.
I know. All that resistance, I know, right? Just sabotage myself.
Great thing about Watto, he'll talk trash about you when you're not here and as you walk out the door.
It's good to go now.
And
Wow,
so
okay.
going back to you, Chris, is your plan to go get your hustle going back again in China? Because you left some business on the table there, didn't you?
Yeah, so when I came here in October, I was still managing business. I do events in Guangzhou. I organize and promote and salsa, bachata, Latin events
Oh, wow.
in Guangzhou. At the time, when I came here, the plan was to come here and go back in March, set some things up here business wise, go back in March and stay out there in China for about 6 months. But when I came here, I was still managing about 2 events weekly, every Tuesday, every Saturday. That got shut down. That ended January 25th. I remember January 25th was a Saturday, and the event started like 9 p.m., right? And I think we had got the word from the Chinese government that everything was shutting down, like maybe 2 or 3 hours before the event. But we had been hearing rumors all day. So since January 25th, that source of revenue has dried up. I do other things, but since then, that ended. A week after that, I'm sourcing face masks from Colombia, shipping them to Asia. So a week after that, everybody in China starts hitting me up. Hey, where are you? Where are you? Hey, we need you to buy masks. And I'm looking. I'm going out to investigate in the streets. You know, they got markets out here to where, you know how in China you can go to one market and they sell everything in one place, the similar thing. So I went to that area out here where they sell all the medical stuff, and I said, you know what? I was just investigating for other people, and then I realized I saw 3 Chinese guys walking down the same street here in Medellin, Colombia, buying up face masks. I said, oh, we got to do more than investigate. It's time to go. So when I lost that other form of when I stopped the events because of the quarantine in China, got into another business. Luckily, I'd already registered a company here, so it was already ready to go when it came to the business setup. So I was doing that, buying here and sending to Asia, and now I'm buying directly from factories in China and shipping them to the States. About the events, though, I recently just started. When you said I left business on the table, it just got back up and running. So China's just now starting to move again. They're really taking it step by step, but we've gotten the official okay to open the salsa night back up. So we're crawling before we walk and walk before we run. So we're doing kind of like just one night for the next few weeks, and we'll see what happens
So
from
the
there.
question, we're talking about Guangzhou, right?
Yeah.
What percentage of people are you up or down on your first night back? Let's say, and I'm going to use a magic round number. Let's say you've got 100 people that used to come. How many people came to the first one back?
We used to have maybe between 150 to 200 people on a good night, on a regular night. The first one back, I've had 2 in the past week. The first one back was last Friday, and we had about 30 people. Much better than what I was expecting. I was expecting nothing, because this is the thing. We're tiptoeing back into this thing. You know, people are still a bit scared and a bit nervous. And not only that, there's still the discrimination with foreigners that people are afraid of.
Okay.
Because of what happened in Guangzhou, not only with black people, but with foreigners in general. Like, they put all the foreigners on quarantine after the official quarantine was over. And I think that's just ended like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Because the new narrative was the foreigners have coronavirus. So with that being said, a lot of foreigners are still afraid to come out. I'm expecting, and maybe if we keep pushing in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we can get back there. But that's normal, just like anything. If you start a new event, it's going to take a minimum of that. Now, this whole pandemic situation is almost like starting over when it comes to building a crowd and building a successful event. So it's going to take some time.
Okay.
That's scary. Are you operating at a loss, or are you at least breaking even? Or do you consider the money you're spending investing in the future?
Between us, this business model that I'm operating on doesn't have any costs. It's pure profit.
Nice. I need to grow up and do what you do.
But yeah, that what I will tell you that I started those events because I had another company. I was doing it. I had opened a dance studio with a former partner of mine. We've separated, and I let that go, the dance studio. But if I were still managing and running a dance studio there in Guangzhou, that would have been terrible because the cost on the studio per month by itself, we wouldn't have survived that one. But the events part of it, pure profit.
So it looks like you got it made.
I was, let's just say I was at the right place at the right time doing the right thing.
Well, here's the thing. I don't believe in luck. I believe that you can hit an intersection being prepared and an opportunity opening, but you didn't get lucky. I know you. I know you're a hustler.
No. All of you said is correct. For preparation, the opportunity, but I was still a little bit it was still a little bit luck in there. Okay. Because listen, with this whole situation that's going on right now, if I would have left 2 months later or whatever, if I didn't leave when I left, I wouldn't be where I am now in the situation I'm in. I might have been stuck out there. And I got a lot of friends that stuck in Bali, stuck in the Philippines, trying to get back to China, but China's, locked down right now. You can't even get in. So, I had enough time to take the revenue that I was making in China and invest it in my company here in Colombia. But not only that, invested in setting up a whole new life here in Colombia. So by the time this whole quarantine started, I wasn't in hotels or in hostels or anything like that. I was there the first month or two. But then I had an opportunity to get my own setup, own apartment, stuff like that. It's not as easy in South America, or let me say Colombia, and even Brazil, as that is in China to get your own apartment like that. In China, you have the money, okay, get it. In Brazil,
I'll tell you, my experience was a little different because I'll tell you my apartment negotiation tactic is this.
In China or Brazil?
Yeah, in Brazil. This is São Paulo, Brazil. You find something you like, you talk to them, and you say, listen, this is how much you want. I want you to give me a discount of 5%. And what the?
It's that charger that only works part of the time.
What had happened?
That's what you get when you don't use a fully working charger. I'm sorry. I can't help
Remember, audience, if you clap hard enough, he'll come back. Come on, clap.
You see, this comes from working with children. Working with children for so long when they do the little thing.
It was a classic Peter Pan reference. What are you talking about?
Thank you.
When Peter goes points, and that's how you clap your back to life. I got you.
Thank you.
Well, here's the thing I did is, you find an apartment you like and you say, I want a discount, 5 or 10%. And they say, that's an insult. I can't do that. And then you say, listen, what if I pay you 6 months in advance in cash? Then you see the sweat trickle down, the hands. I did the same thing in China. I said, look, what does cash do for me? I've got a career. I can show you my bank statement 6 months ahead. I haven't had anybody walk away from that because cash works.
Well, this is my experience in China and my experience in Brazil. In China, you want to rent an apartment, you have the cash, you put 3.5 months down, and you it's done. Okay. In Brazil, you need a fiador, cosigner, 30 months. You have to jump through hoops. The bureaucracy is just crazy. You can pay 6 months and cool, it makes it easier. But what I'm saying is compared to that and compared to the system in China, you don't need to pay anybody 6 months rent in China. Just pay them 3.5
Hold
months.
on, guys. I want to show everybody something real quick, just because I gotta have something to laugh at. Because Nathan right now is struggling, I'm guessing, to get back on with us. Let me show you guys something. Hold on. This is what is on his join screen right now.
Oh.
Because I don't know what he did.
Woo-woo.
Oh, wait. No, he came on and then he went back out again. I'm like, why?
That's how kids get their participation points.
Seriously, to bring him back, but we'll see. But yeah, I guess it depends on the situation. For me, it's a buyer's market for a lot of things. So even if one said no, you can find another apartment just as good. And somebody wants that cash, especially when they size you up and they say, all right, well, show me your bank account. And I can open up on my phone, 6 months bank account. I have a regular job. Here's your 6 months.
I forgot about that requirement.
It's hard for them to lose. Huh?
All I'm saying is you don't have to do all that in China, Yusuf. You don't need to do the 6 months, all of that.
The reason I did that is because I get a discount. I always make them bleed for it. I make them bleed 5 or 10%.
Yusuf, I also get a discount. My last apartment in Guangzhou, they wanted 13,000 renminbi. Okay, I got them down to 8,100.
Was it solid gold? What are you paying 18,000 RMB for?
No. It was 8,100.
Oh, 8,000. I heard 18. I'm sorry.
No. They wanted 13, and that was the foreigner price. But
of course it is.
You got
disappeared.
So, but I got them down to 8,100, and I paid 3.5 months rent. It's just an easier process than what we go through in Brazil.
Oh.
Like, I don't see how you could disagree with that.
Here's the thing. For me, they're both the same. When I want apartment hunting, like that's my MO. My MO is to say, look, give me a big discount. I've got this cash for you. If you don't want
I'm not talking about the money, I'm talking about the bureaucracy.
Oh, I didn't go through any bureaucracy here. That's the thing. They just gave me the keys and they were like, here are the bills.
So what's the process in Brazil? What's the normal process? Because what you're talking about is some under the table shit.
The normal process is you come in, you have your CPF number.
CPF.
Say again?
Your CPF.
Yeah. You have your CPF number. You have your. You may have to have a fiador, which is basically a cosigner, because what they want is to make sure you don't skip out, and that's the whole process.
How many months do you have to sign up for?
They want you to sign for 30 months. I told her I'll give you.
So when we compare process to process,
not me. I told her
30 months, all that 6 months compared to no fiador in China. 3.5 months, you can still negotiate. When you compare process to process, not under the table process, on top of the table process.
I'm also going to say it depends on what kind of visa you're on in Brazil. And I say that because I came in on a work visa working. Now, I'm very good at what I do. I'm highly qualified. And I work for one of the best schools in the country and the best school in the state. So I walked into my apartment and I'm like, I'm looking for a place to stay. And he's like, here you go. You pay rent on the 5th. Here's the contract. Sign for a year. Let me know. I didn't have to get a fiadora. I didn't have to do that because I had the name behind me. So it wasn't under the table, but I didn't have that because I'm a foreigner on a work visa, which is a hard thing to get in Brazil. And I work for the school that pays money. So in a way, it's still the cash thing, as Watt said earlier, because it's just cash in a different form, I think, because they know they're going to get paid one way or another with a foreigner like me who works for the school that I work for.
And here's the thing. When I came in, I did not sign any 30 months anything. I told them I can give you a year guaranteed. Outside of that, by the way, I want to do something. You brought something up that's interesting. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to put this on the side. I want you to tell people because, again, this may not necessarily relate to China, but it relates to what you spoke on. I've got like 2 or 3 pages open, which is more than I normally have because when I do this, I normally only have the ones open that are specific to that situation. So watch this. Tell them what you did in this, and I'm going to put the link to it. Tell them about this. Because, again, can you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, tell them what you did there.
Just so I make sure that I'm talking about the right thing, because lots of videos. Is this the one where I talked about becoming certified in teaching in Dubai with ABCTE?
Well, not just Dubai, but how you did that in Brazil as well to get the job that you have, because that's
Okay.
Give them a quick synopsis.
Sure. So the quick thing I have to say about this is I've never set foot on a college campus, ever. I have multiple degrees, and I got them all earning online and living in a different country than the one I was born in. So in this particular video, I talk about how I went through the certification process. I got my degree, and I partnered with a company in the US that helps certified teachers who don't want to be stuck in a state. Because to become a licensed teacher, you have to be state certified. You have to commit to a state, get your licensure, and then if you want to travel or change, you can do it that way. I don't intend to retire in the States. I don't really intend to go back to the States for anything longer than a visit. So I partnered with a company and got an international teaching license. And it's one that's accepted in 13 of the 50 states. And they're heading toward more. It's an alternative route to licensure that helps you stay certified. So I took this licensure, and it took me from working in an unaccredited school in the UAE because I didn't have that certificate to, like I said, I now work in one of the best schools in the country and definitely the best school in the state now. And so in this particular video, I go through the certification process, taking the exams, preparing for it. And I also talked a little bit about being a teacher overseas. I've lived in 4 different countries, visited many more, and I currently teach in 3 different countries at one time. So
now here's what she also was kind of modest about, and you guys can go into the video if you want to go into more of that. When she got that certification, it bumped her income up to a hefty degree, and all these bonuses that you get, living expenses paid for and housing paid for and all that stuff, just by having that certification that she took online for 4 months. It's something a lot of people don't know about.
I like to be humble.
Yeah. And Christy, wow. The link should be right there above your name. Christy, by the way, make sure you and Sylvia, make sure you both click subscribe on the YouTube link as well, because that's the important one. Look what Sylvia said. Former Shanghai resident here. Where'd you live? I was there 2001, 2003. I was on mainland and Hong Kong for a total of 11 years.
Girl, you dedicated.
Yes, I love it.
Wow. That's a lot.
But she lived in Hong Kong also, so I feel as if you split it up sometimes, it's a bit more palpable.
Hong Kong reminds me of like an English Los Angeles. That's what I thought when I was there. But I was only there for a couple of visa runs in China.
Right.
So I only got to see it as like a tourist, but I always got the feel, it reminded me of like San Francisco, how it's all put together and there's like no breathing room whatsoever. And it has very much that California city feel to me. And their money is like the most beautiful money I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
They're like bright pink, bright purple, neon green. They're like, you can see us.
Well, you know, the $10 bill has that little transparent circle in the middle of it. For no reason whatsoever. Let's just make this one transparent.
Yeah, just randomly, because we can.
Sylvia, send me an email and I'll let you come up, because that amount of time in China beats all of us combined.
This is true.
I think that might be all of us combined, that many years in China, you know, and that'll give us some perspective that. So what I'll do is let me know if you're going to send the link. Now, people always say, hey, Watt, I had a friend in Shanghai. Did you know blah, blah, blah. And this is something that Laura talked about earlier. And I want you to kind of go into this real quick so that people can get a real understanding of tier cities. Can you explain this picture?
Oh, this is to let you know what type of hospital you'll get to go to if you need to, depending on what tier city you're in. No, it's just what level of modernization a city will have. Tier 1 city, tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. Tier 1 is like Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing. Top of the top, cream of the crop, best. You know, you got everything. You got your KFC, your Starbucks, your Walmart, and you got the other places that are authentic to China. Whereas tier 5, yeah, they don't even know how to say hello in English.
No.
Wow.
You have to give an example of tier 2. Everything else is tier 2 is almost like a Nashville. Anything past tier 3 is I don't even know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, you know. You're talking about places where the population is much higher and the level of income and education is much lower.
Where you will find a real toilet. Let me see that toilet.
Oh, here we go.
You will or will not.
You will. I took my mom to a couple of places while she was in China. And even in Shanghai, she had to learn how to use the squatty potty. And I'm just thinking of my mother squatting. And it's just like, oh.
That's always an experience for the first, especially for women, for the first time.
You know,
balance.
I gotta say, living in Beijing, where when I first got there, I'm totally illiterate. I didn't speak any Mandarin. I couldn't read anything. I was there completely by myself, had never even left the West Coast before, and then moved to China. To have all that and not be able to rely on the consistency of a toilet is a very traumatic experience.
Or toilet paper.
A squatty potty, as she's describing, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a hole in the ground. And you gotta aim. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's challenging if you've never had to do that before.
I just looked up some pictures.
Make sure you have toilet paper too.
That's another thing. These days you can find toilet paper in tier 1 cities, but when I was there back in like 2012, like no, everybody was walking around with the tissue packets. If you didn't have tissue packets,
that's what I did. Tissue packets and sanitizer.
Yeah.
If you didn't have tissue packets in 2012, you was fucked.
Yeah. So this is a squatty potty.
Those are the
So
nice
what happens
ones,
when you start to feel the burn in your thighs?
Like that.
Those are the nice ones.
Nathan,
you might have a handrail.
Every single one of us has a terrible horror story about those.
Yes, I was just about to say, everybody has a story.
I can imagine.
Everybody has a story.
So is there a bidet in there or something you can,
No. I would not try a bidet in China. Japan, oh my gosh. Japan was amazing. That's like the best. I'm sorry, man. The best place to have your period is in Japan because it has a bidet. It's wonderful, fantastic. So I would not do a bidet in China.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, because those are washlets, and the washlets in Japan are pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, it's so fantastic.
Japan and China are very, 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 very different.
Yeah, I'm learning. Japan has futuristic toilets. China has antique, historic, whatever you want to call it. It's not even toilets. Wow.
Be prepared. I wish someone had told me before I went, so that just mentally.
You can't. So compare that with the way that the Japanese would do their toilets. That's a space toilet. You sit down on that bad boy.
Right.
I have those in my home right now.
That's a lot.
First of all, it's already warm. There's no shock of sitting in a cold toilet seat.
Yep.
Am I the only one who's grossed out by a warm toilet seat? Like, it must be.
No, that's nice. That's a really nice thing.
That's fantastic.
And a cold winter day, and you sit down on that thing.
Okay, now to be honest, I haven't had a winter in over 7 years. So,
and then the water's warm too. I mean,
Mhm.
come on now.
Good memories, pleasant, wonderful, fantastic, fresh. There's just a feeling of freshness. Like, yes, I'm ready to start the day. And when you're on your period, you don't feel that. You know, you're just like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
yeah.
Fuck you. And it's just like, yes, I am ready. I am one. Oh, it's fantastic.
You must be talking to me because they
I
can't
bought them
relate
from my
to you
house.
at
I have
all.
one in my bathroom and one for my son.
If I could just get one here, I'd be so happy. So happy.
Well, listen, for the right price.
Now,
you
a lot
can
of
get
times in
one
the Philippines, they have the hose. That's true.
In the Middle East, that's what they had too. When I lived in Dubai, the bidet, the hose attachment, and here in
The
Brazil,
hose
they have it too.
Yeah, they do. That'll
Yeah,
do. You know, it's definitely a step up from regular TP. I'm always razzing people at work, telling them that. In the U.S., we all know, right? I mean, that regular TP has never done the job completely. Or am I just alone on this? Right?
No, you're
Listen,
not. No one wants to admit it.
How do we get
your
here?
diet? Because if regular toilet paper doesn't do it for you, like, are you not getting enough fiber? Are you eating too much red meat?
No, I'm actually going to back
No,
you
you
How
up
did
on
we
this one.
get here?
need
No,
some
I'm backing
water
you up
on
on
there.
this one because, for real, if you were to stick your hands into a mud puddle, would you be content with just wiping it off with a piece of paper? No, you would
Exactly.
not. You would
So
want
visual,
soap
but
water
so
with that.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Regular
I'm
TP.
backing him up with this one. I
Yeah,
agree.
exactly.
I'm pro bidet.
And when
Get
I
some
say
water,
that to
clean
people,
yourself up.
when I say that to people, they act like I'm letting some huge secret out. Like I'm like, come on, let's all admit, regular TP alone is not sufficient.
Agreed.
I know I'm kind of anal about this, pardon the pun, but
Ah!
I'm
Hey,
I'm
quick question.
fixated on
I don't know, Chris. I don't know if you were there. I was. I don't know if Laura was, but who was there in China? Well, because I led a couple of different social groups in China, and one of them we would go out and play laser tag.
Laser tag! Oh yeah! Where I'm secretly the fittest person on the team.
Yeah, who was there for that? Who was there for indoor laser tag when we would go?
That was fun. That was down the street from where I worked.
No, we never linked up in China. I wasn't.
We didn't.
Oh, you missed it though.
No, it wasn't until Brazil.
Yeah, you were a sniper over there. I remember that.
Oh yeah, everybody was like, "No, we don't want the fat girl on our team." Until I was on the opposite team, and then suddenly they're like, "Woo, where'd she come from?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, China had a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, China's popping.
Who's taking these pictures?
I think everybody took some pictures.
Oh, I never took pictures. I suck at taking pictures. Not at the ability to do it, but at the reminder that people photograph.
And I don't know if anybody here knows that I love museums, and they had a train museum. It was awesome. The Shanghai Train Museum is like out of a science fiction movie.
Everything.
Go to that museum.
Wow.
I don't know if I went to that museum or not.
I did not.
The
I went
Shanghai
to a lot of
Metro
stuff in
Museum.
Beijing, but not in Shanghai.
Is there a market at that metro station underground?
There probably was. Probably. I do cultural excursion days where I go places that only exist in that country. And this was an art museum, and they had some guy who made some very interesting stuff. I got to go see some outdoor glass blowing by some very talented artisans.
I love glass blowing.
Oh, I think I know where you are. Okay, I know where that is.
I went to a giant anime convention they had there that was awesome. Oh, this was everybody getting ready in their costumes for the cosplay beforehand. Everybody would bring in their backpacks and roll in these giant costumes that they would have to put on over the course of like an hour.
Wow.
And this young lady, I'm not sure what she was, but her dress was fearless. And it had some kind of a space animal attached to it. It was awesome.
Okay.
What is that? Wait,
Don't
what
know.
is that?
A little creepy though.
We're not gonna talk about it. We're just gonna scroll right past it.
A couple other museums, because again, Shanghai is one of the top 10 largest cities in the world. Isn't Sao Paulo, Brazil, like 12 or 11? We're talking about megapolises with millions and millions of people. So you can go out on a day and say, I'm going to go to 5 museums and barely scratch the surface. There are museums dedicated to everything. I think this was the police criminal museum where they had all the things that the police used to carry and all the things criminals used to carry.
Yeah, Shanghai has 24 million people.
That's huge.
It's ridiculously huge.
Squatty potty. I see it.
Yeah,
Okay, don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh, Uterus Man. Who remembers Uterus Man?
Insert
Nobody?
political joke here.
Nobody
All men come
remembers
from the
Uterus
uterus,
Man?
so
Okay, he was awesome. He was pretty awesome. But yeah, you could see some of everything. You know, China has such a deep and diverse history. Now, the reason guns are on the wall, something that, again, I always state that a lot of Americans tend to forget that guns simply aren't a thing in the rest of the world, that having a gun is like such an extraordinarily, you see police in other countries, they're actually guys who can beat the fuck out of you because they don't walk around with guns. They walk around with 2 fists and a stick, and they do serious training. Like they're cops in a fight.
Not in Brazil.
Am I
In China, but not in Brazil.
Not in Brazil?
No, in Brazil, depending on which city you're in, you will absolutely see police with weapons.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
no. In every city in Brazil, I believe so.
Yeah.
I've
never seen them in Vitoria, but this is a very small city. But I know in Rio and Sao Paulo, they absolutely will carry. They will carry guns.
Every place I've been in Brazil.
Yeah, I was going to say. So if we're talking about China, sure.
But you know something else that Brazil has in common with America? Wait for it. Fat police officers.
I don't know if I've seen fat police officers. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying I haven't seen them here.
You know, I mean, it's one of those things where when you go to other countries and realize, like, I was amazed when I was in Japan. I think the officers there have to do something like 10 or 20 hours a month of pure combat training. When you see someone go crazy in Japan, and people all over the world go crazy, and they take a machete, they're so good, they make sure the guy doesn't even hurt himself. I mean, I've seen them double leg takedown, crack some dude with an elbow, rip the knife out of his arm, body slam him, and nobody gets hurt. And they just roll him up in a blanket and take him away. Because they're taught as a cop, your job isn't to shoot people or to kill them. Your job is to beat the criminal into submission and then put him in jail for an extraordinary amount of time.
Well, that's
like
not
they see it as a failure if you have to shoot somebody. Like you just couldn't handle your business.
In the Americas, like that. In all parts of the Americas, I don't think that ever happens. From Canada all the way down to Brazil. No.
And what I want to get across about the concept of China is just how diverse it is. You know, and I think I said this before, but I can't stress enough to you. You'll get stories from where Christopher is in I don't even know how to pronounce it the right way. Guangzhou to Shanghai to Beijing, where you were, right, Al?
Yes.
And you can get so many different stories that China is one of those places. I tell people this all the time. If the American media will portray Americans in a way that is completely inaccurate, why would you trust them to talk about people in another country accurately?
Even worse, because I think this is one of my least favorite things about the American belief system. Most people, and this might be worldwide, but most people die within 2 miles of where they were born. And a very, very small population of Americans that are in the middle class, especially educated Americans, are leaving to see other parts of the world. I mean, my family has a lot of opinions on the countries I've been to, though they haven't left the 3 states in which they've lived in their entire lives. Like, they've never been to New York, let alone to Dubai, to Beijing, to Sao Paulo. I think that's one of the most frustrating things, that they have these strong opinions because, oh, we saw it on Fox News, it must be real.
Wow.
And I'm like, you have never been there? Like,
Wow. Let me tell you guys, these days, the news for me it's always been super entertaining, but these days, for example, I was explaining to you guys how I've been in the face mask and personal protective equipment business for the past 3 or 4 months. And what I've been looking at on the media, what they've been telling the people in the United States on the news does not match what I see on the ground. Okay. Right. Nowhere close to it. And for example, it's very, very, I'm nervous for people in the States as the states are beginning to open back up when it never really closed down. And so it's almost like half-ass doing it, but that's one thing, that it's opening up. What I see on the ground in China when it comes to personal protective equipment is that if you want to buy even like something small, like 10, 20,000 face masks right now, those face masks will be sitting in China for the next 3 weeks, waiting in line to fly out. If you're shipping in US, UPS, DHL. So as the United States starts to open back up, and they're telling people on the media, oh, we're going to have this many tests, we're going to have this many, they don't have that. And if they don't have it now, and they're trying to get it, there's a delay on it because the logistics system is just crazy right now because it's so much, trying to get out of there. So, like I said, what I see on the news and what they're telling people,
yeah, those two stories don't match.
No, well, listen, I've got, I can't believe I'm going to do this. I've got some sad news. I just got a message from our friend who got disappeared. Matter of fact, hold on. Let me put that there. Let me put this up. He got disappeared. So let me show you the message that I just got. Hold on.
Oh. Hercules.
Be nice to your computer, though. Like, for real. Don't hate on the computer, because we all can't live without him right now.
Right.
And I say that to say this. I tagged all 3 of you on Facebook. Make sure you go to Facebook as soon as we're done and share this on your stream, because that's how we get to meet other really good people. To everybody watching this, make sure you make sure you subscribe, because this is what's helped this channel to grow and to be able to meet so many awesome people and bring you guys stories. I'm going to do a lot more about Brazil soon, because I've been getting a lot of questions from people saying, I need to get out of the United States. Just while we're sitting here, I've been receiving messages saying, what do I need to do? Can I contract you? Can I contract your company? Because I need to get out of the United States. And I'm going to leave you guys with 2 interesting links before we sign off. Oh, one of them, thank you. BK said make sure to
thank you, BK,
and subscribe. I want to show you guys something that I did for anybody interested in Brazil, and I left a link there. This is something you're going to have to definitely.
Does he know he froze? I don't think he knows he froze. You froze, Watt.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I said one of the things that's critically important for people is to go to this link, how to get a CPF in Brazil. This is the first step you're going to need to come to Brazil. It's something that a lot of you can do online. Critically important. I cannot stress this enough. Mm-hmm. Click that link and check it out. If anybody needs more help on that, let me know. what else do I want to say? I want to also click on this. We talk about people leaving the United States, and there is a phrase that we like to use. There's something specifically called brain drain. And I did something called When Brains Drain to Brazil, because what brain drain does, it's when the best and the brightest leave where they are to go someplace else. Remember, it's not the Americans from any community who are the uneducated and undesirables that are going to China or to Brazil or to any place else in the world. It's never those people. It's the ones you want to stay the most. The people leaving are the ones who actually can contribute to any economy that they're in. They're the people who have what it takes to succeed anywhere, and those people are leaving. Those people have found homes outside the United States, and like I think all of us never plan on going back. Now, Laura, I know you are in Texas right now, right? Do you plan on getting back?
I need to get out of here as soon as possible.
Laura, you must be going crazy back there.
I
feel my Americanness draining back into me, where I'm thinking, oh, it's hard to get out. I'm like, no, it's not. You can get out anytime you want. Run.
I think there's like two secrets that nobody ever talks about. Number one, America is not the greatest country in the world,
really
despite our personal opinions. And number two, it's actually really easy to leave. The hardest part is to make the decision to leave. Everything after that is just paperwork.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my family's here, and my car, and my cat.
And they'll still be there.
Leave because my family's here. Girl, you need to get out. Get out.
Facebook is amazing, and you haven't seen your family since Christmas. Don't lie.
How many times have we heard that Laura just said? The same.
Right?
I've heard it several times.
So let's do this. We are going to go Christopher, Laura, Owl in order of sign-offs. Okay, and as always, thank you for everybody who watched, and BK, shout out to the awesome panel. You guys are what make it awesome. Laura just flashed a gang sign.
I think it was a peace sign too.
I'm not going to replicate it. It is whatever it was.
Gang member.
Hold on. Now that we're logging off, I do have one Laura story. The reason I said Laura might be flashing a gang sign is you guys know Laura is our
Oh, he froze. Thank God.
Laura,
you froze. What? We didn't hear it. You totally froze. You froze before you said it.
Laura is our what?
Our resident
I said
what?
Laura is our resident criminal.
I am not a criminal.
She looks pretty much.
So for everybody, when we wrap up, the last thing I want you guys to take a look at, the last thing I want you to see is, hold on a second, let me share this page. In jail in China. Guess who's been to jail in China? And it wasn't me.
Where's your mom? I gotta go look at this one. I know that was hell.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to.
It was probably for some bullshit too, wasn't it?
If everybody wants to hear an interesting story about China and going to jail in China, check out In Jail in China.
So how do we do the sign off? Do I just press end, or what do you mean?
No, I was just saying, what do you want to say?
He's ready to go watch that video.
What do you want to say as your last goodbyes?
What did you say? Whatever I want to say. What?
Do you want to give your last goodbyes?
Ooh, that sounds drastic.
Yeah. Oh, it was good.
We will see you again.
I don't really do this type of stuff. I don't really do, like you asked me. A lot of people have asked me. But you get Renee and we can have that conversation about What was it? Greve de Policias no Brazil. The police strike in Salvador, Bahia. 6 days with no police. If you want to do that, I'm down. I'm open to it.
Yeah,
I think this
we have
year,
to have story time on Brazil.
I think this year, 2020, I'm gonna be open to more of these type of things because you know me, I haven't really been, visual with it or open with it or do these type of things. I like to keep a low profile. I'm quite private, but I think this year we can do it. So let me know and I'll be around. So
That's more days than the purge. Okay, interesting.
what did you say?
That's more days than the. That's more days than the purge.
The first 12 hours? Like that
Yeah.
was 6 days with no police, and it was.
I'm dead curious. Why in the purges is always people killing people? I mean, if I had 12 hours without crime, I'd be like robbing a supermarket. Like, for real? Why is it always killing people? I never understood that.
I mean,
All I know is that in real life there was 198 deaths in the first 48 hours of that.
Oh my goodness.
It was real. It was real. That's why when everything was shutting down, like a couple months ago, a few weeks ago, there was quarantine. I'm like, we just have to stay at home. We still have police. Right. Imagine having to stay at home with no police in the city.
That's
okay. So that was an experience.
Laura.
Yes.
Do you have anything you want to say goodbye with?
I can say goodbye how I usually say goodbye to my students. Other than that, I'm probably just going to do something.
Okay.
That's basically what it is.
I know, because I do it.
So, I got to go first.
Yeah.
I just know technically you're going second. How about this? We'll see you again soon. We'll go to Owl.
I just want to say thank you for letting me come on. I don't get to do these discussions very often. I'm usually lurking in the comments while it's live. So, thank you for letting me come on and have an opinion. Like and subscribe, everybody. Send any comments. Feel free to follow Watt on all his various social medias. Follow me on all my social medias. Follow Christopher and Laura on all their social medias. All that. So thank you, everybody, for being here. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time.
Excellent. All right. Well, listen, what I'm going to do is on my end, I'm going to click the goodbye button. And outside of that, we're going to let everybody else go away. And everybody, you guys stay in the background. We're going to do some trash talking while the crowd goes home. So thank